This is my country, my damn country. Give me my country, you can keep the rest. This is my country, my damn country. And it don't mean a thing if it don't pass the test. If you ain't never cheated or been cheated on, then take off your boots, you rhinestone fraud. And outlaw songs, hard time, foolish pride, done me wrong. Flirting with the devil, getting right with the man. Ain't men paint songs, one night stands. You can keep your picket fence fantasies and put a cork in your high school memories. This is my country, my damn country. Give me my country, you can keep the rest. This is my country, my damn country. And that don't mean a thing if it don't pass the test. If you ain't never spent a single night in jail, then get another job and I'll see you in hell. I'm drawn like a moth through the neon lights. I need a bucket of beer and someone to fight. Don't call yourself country if your music is shitty, or this Carolina boy will take you down to Fifth City. You know who you are, I ain't gonna name names. Just keep your hands off my country and go back from where you came. My country, my damn country. Give me my country, you can keep the rest. This is my country, my damn country. And that don't mean a thing if it don't pass the test. If you ain't never done something you regret, well then I'm proud of you. And now get it.
What's going on, boxing fans? Welcome to my show, Bourbon and Boxing. I'm your host, Jeff Boltz. And of course, we always like to start our show off with a little bit of a shot. Today, I'm going to share what I'm drinking with you guys tonight while we do the show. This is called Howler Head, straight out of Kentucky bourbon with a little bit of banana flavor. I didn't know that when I bought it. But here's the good thing about this stuff. They guarantee 100% no ape shit is in this. That's a good guarantee by you guys at Howler Head. But I'd like to say, as you can see, I've drank a little bit of it. I started drinking it yesterday. And even with the banana flavor, it's still really smooth, and it's not over strong. Good stuff to set back and just relax to if you just want something smooth and easy. Give Howler Head a try. Different, and I like it, man. It's not bad stuff. Howler Head, that's what we're drinking on tonight. So let's go ahead and start this out. Show that was going to be called Who's Next, but we may have to change that title as we find out today. Breaking news on Wednesday, actually, about Virgil Ortiz, and we'll get into that later into the show. But like I said, let's start this show out with a shot, as we always like to do, and then we're going to get into talking about last week's fights and this week's fights coming up tonight, and everything going on in boxing, man. Cheers, and here we go, guys. Not bad. All right, like I said, this is episode 2 of Bourbon and Boxing, where we're going to call this episode Who's Next, because we had an opportunity this week to have four of the top 10 welterweights fighting and showcasing this weekend, with Virgil Ortiz versus Stanonius, and those two being in the top 10, and then Jerome Boots Ennis was going to be fighting Villa, who is also fighting tonight. That's 4 of the top 10 guys, and like I said, we had an opportunity for these guys to kind of eliminate 2 of them, and then 2 of them to move forward with an opportunity to maybe fight each other, or an opportunity to fight Spencer Crawford. But the bad news is that Virgil Ortiz, once again, is dealing with some health issues. He told Chris Mannix what the issue was when he did an interview with him on Wednesday. He kind of went into detail about what it was. I'm not scientific. I don't know these big words, what exactly is going on, but it's something to do with a muscle deterioration, which is never good for a boxer or anybody in his age, or anybody, period, for your muscles to deteriorate. So let's hope he can bounce back from this, and then hopefully, he can continue a career in boxing, but it may look like, he may have to end up retiring, guys, to be honest with you. With those type of health issues, you don't really want to play with that in your life, man. You want to make sure your health is correct before you go into that ring and risk it against anybody. So let's just wish Virgil Ortiz the best and getting healthy, and hope to see him down the road. A lot of people say he needs to move up to 154. He can't seem to make the welterweight size at 147. It's too hard for him. So if that's the case, he may be eliminating himself from the welterweight who's next conversation. Stanonius definitely deserves an opportunity, as this is the third time this fight has been delayed. We haven't seen him fight since last April, so over a year since he's been in the ring. He definitely needs to size up an opponent and get back in that ring before he gets some ring rust. But like we also said, we got a couple other big fights tonight. But let's go back to last week's fights, man. What happened last week with Anderson versus Martin, which was my big-time showtime. I'm a big Ohio guy. I'm from Ohio. Well, I'm actually from Kentucky across the river, but been living in Ohio for the last 8 years. Ohio is really good for boxing. And we got a chance to see a Toledo boy, hometown boy, go home and get a good fight against a vet fighter like Martin. A lot of people underestimate this guy, thinking that Anderson was coming in fighting a taxi cab driver. Now, Martin's a good vet with a lot of power. He likes to establish his jab, and that's kind of what he did in this fight. He established his jab against Anderson, and Anderson fought really well, but he started to get a little lackadaisical with his defense. And in the sixth, he got caught with an overhand jab while leaning back. The one thing I've noticed about Anderson's defense is the lean back defense that he does. I think I'm not a fan of that style of defense in boxing. I think it opens you up to the overhand counters and the two-punch combos, and your feet aren't in proper position once you lean back like that, putting yourself and your feet out of position, opening you up for big shots, and that's what happened against Martin. The sixth round, he did exactly that, leaned back, let his guard down, and it allowed Martin to come in with a nice overhand jab that landed and hurt Big Baby for the first time in his career. And I really thought Martin was going to finish it in the sixth round. It really looked that way, and it had me worried as a Big Baby Anderson fan. I'm like, man, don't let him go down like this. How's he recover from this loss? But he stood in there. He showed that he has a good chin. He didn't go down, which is really, really good on his part. But during that round, he just continued to drop that guard and get hit with that big jab by Martin. And like we said, if you allow Martin to establish his jab, that's going to open it up for his overhand left. And that's what he was doing, man. He was establishing his jab or opening it up for his big overhand right that he was trying to set up on Anderson. Anderson showed me a lot in this fight about his elusiveness, ability to move like a middleweight. Even Martin mentioned that hey, this guy moves very well. And I saw that. But I also saw times where he lost focus. He was looking at the clock. He's dropping his hands, and the lean back defense. Those are some big flaws that he definitely needs to go, and they're all fixable. Every one of them are fixable. I think if you teach him the step back defense instead of the lean back, allow him to step back, and then you can throw punches while you're going backwards. And with his size and his elusiveness, he would definitely be able to catch on to, in my opinion, he would be able to catch on to the step back defense would benefit him because he's a good counter puncher, and you can set up that jab while going back and then come over the top with a nice left or right, whatever. So I think those are some things he's got to fix. Number two, stop looking at the clock, man. You can't look at that clock. It got him caught several times against a guy like Martin. This is something I've seen him do in past fights also. He starts to look at the clock when it gets around 30, 20 seconds, and you notice that he tries to start putting it on more in that time frame. What he needs to do is don't worry about the clock. You fight till that bell rings, till that ref steps in and stops it. That bell rings. Don't worry about the clock. Don't worry about how many barrages of punches that you can land or try to take the guy out within the last 20 seconds of that round. He's got to learn to just kind of pace himself and let that come. You're going to land those big punches. He was landing big punches on Martin. He stunned him a few times. He did hurt Martin. And he dominated the fight. He won the fight. He did what he had to do. But getting caught exposed him as far as what his weaknesses were. And you can see it that if he goes up against a more vet-style fighter, that could come back to really haunt him. And your bigger, harder punchers. And it's hard to get a harder puncher than Martin. He throws 11% power punches per round. That's, 11.6, I think, and that's 2.6 above the average, heavyweight right now, which is like 9% power punches. So Martin is definitely a hard hitter, but for him, I don't know if I'd go up against Dubias right now. I don't know if I'd face Zhang. I'd stay away from big guys like Wilder and of course Fury, and even Usyk I think would outbox him and outsmart him in the ring. He seems to get bored. Like I said, he gets really lackadaisical. I noticed he was dropping his hands a lot and he started moving. That's a bad thing to do, man, especially at a heavyweight. It only takes one punch to knock you off guard or knock you out or get you out of your game, and we saw that against Martin. It only took one punch in the 6th round to throw him off, and it took him a couple rounds to rebound from that. He came out in the 7th, he was still wobbly, and he continued to get caught with that straight jab, and he just wasn't protecting himself. He was leaving that guard down, kept dropping that hand and allowing himself to get hit with that jab. Even in the 12th round, or was it the 10th round? I'm trying to think. I think it was the 12th round. Even in the 12th round, the good thing is he got a lot of rounds in, which was good. We got to see his gas meter, where he's at physically and stuff like that. I think he did good in that aspect, but once again in the 12th round, he starts to look up at the clock and he gets caught with another big jab right before the round is over, which he got lucky. It was going towards the end of the round because it was another big punch by Martin that stunned him, and you saw his legs wobble, and then he protected himself enough to get out of that round and in the 12th round and come out with a victory in that fight. And I don't disagree with the victory. I think Anderson won that fight, but he's going to go back and he's going to learn a lot from fighting a vet like this. That's one thing I think that's really good for young fighters is fighting vet fighters like Martin, guys that are very experienced. They know how to fight. So those are rounds he's got, and he can take that back and he can look at this footage and he can work on those flaws. Like I said, maybe learn to do the step back, not to lean back on his defense, stop looking at the clock, and stop getting lackadaisical during rounds. I don't know if it's being bored, the inability to focus, or he's just, it's just a bad habit. So those are definitely 3 things that he's going to have to fix, in my opinion, to make himself better and more prepared for the top competition. I really think the lean back is what eventually gets him caught if he doesn't change it, because the lean back is, to me, it's just a terrible style of defense. Your feet are out of position. You're leaving yourself open for big time punches and combo punches, because most guys, when you do that, they're going to come up with a 1-2, and when you're laying back like that, you're open to bigger punches. Let's move over to the UK. My big banger fight of the night, I had told you guys, was Savannah Marshall versus Franchon Cruz. And that fight, man, from the 1st round to the 10th round, these ladies fought each other. They banged it out, did a hell of a job. It was the type of fight that I thought it was going to be. And good hard punches. I think the size advantage definitely favored Marshall in the end, allowing her to land the bigger, harder punches and keep Cruz at bay. So Cruz wasn't able to land her signature punches. And it definitely worked in Savannah's favor, but she used it well, and she fought very, very smart against a big-time vet like Cruz, a hard hitter like Cruz, and then she ended up coming out on top, landed some good punches. Overall, I thought it was a good decision for Savannah to win that fight. She earned it, fought a hell of a fight. These ladies definitely banged it out from round 1 to round 2. I don't know, Cruz retires from here. And then we heard a lot about, Marshall versus Clarissa Shields again. And I think that only makes sense. But I agree with Clarissa. Bring that over to the States, even though I think it makes more money in the UK because women's boxing is a little bit more known over there. But I think if you brought it to the States and you put it in the right place, either Vegas or up in New York, that's going to be a heck of a fight. And I think Clarissa deserves to have that fight here in the States. She went to the UK for the first one, so Savannah should definitely come to the States for this one and let these two girls get it on for a second time. I definitely favor Shields in that one. She's just a more experienced, dominant. I mean, she's just the best at what she does right now. No question. She knows how to adapt. I didn't like her last fight. I think she was too focused on getting the knockout and impressing her home crowd, being home for the first time. And I get that. You want to give them a knockout. You want to give them a show. And I think she focused a little too much on that. And that kind of hurt her a little bit as far as getting the knockout or doing what she needed to do. But I think that's inevitable that these two fight each other for a second time. And I agree with Shields. She is the A side of the fight. Bring it to the States where she's at, no question asked. And what are we going to do? Another shot before we go into more fights over there in London with the guy Dalton Smith and Sam Maxwell, which was a really good fight. And, man, I'll tell you what, I've seen some pretty big-time knockouts in my time of watching boxing. But the knockout Dalton Smith landed on Sam Maxwell, it was pretty vicious. You heard it. I mean, just bam. I mean, you heard that punch land. You have to look it up for me to really understand the power of that punch, the velocity, and the hurt that it caused. I mean, he knocked Maxwell out absolutely cold. I think it was the 7th round. And it was a split second. Boxing's like that, man. My kid's down here pulling on my leg, and I do this, and then I hear it. Bam! And then I turn around, and Maxwell is completely out, laying on the mat, and he's knocked out cold. What impressed me more than that knockout, and it was really hard to impress me more than that knockout, especially this week, and it was definitely the knockout of the week. No questions asked, but what impressed me more was the young man's composure in Dalton Smith. He refused to celebrate. He's like, everybody calm down. Let's make sure Maxwell is okay before we decide to celebrate this fight and make sure that my opponent's not hurt to that point. And it took a minute for Maxwell to get up, and Dalton Smith was the one who stopped his team from celebrating, got the crowd to calm down, and respectfully figure out what was going on with Maxwell, who ended up getting up and walked out of the ring. Thank God for that. Big-time knockout punch. We love to see the knockout. We love the big-time knockout. I mean, it makes you excited. But at the same time, as a human being, you got to worry about the guy that got knocked out too. And as a boxing fan, I always worry about these young guys in that ring. I'm not so savage that I'm rooting for a guy to get hurt ever in boxing. We want to see knockouts, but I don't want to see a guy's career ended. I don't want to see a guy viciously hurt, and I definitely don't want to see anybody die in the ring. Nothing like that when it comes to boxing. But shout out to Dalton Smith, man. Your composure and your maturity to be able to say, hey, guys, calm down. When we figure out what's going on with him, then we'll celebrate. Great composure, and, man, that showed a lot of maturity from a young guy like you. And I want to commend you for that, and other fighters need to look and think the same way you do. Always worry about if your opponent is okay. And then once he did, he was good to celebrate, man. And by all means, he definitely deserved it. Like I said, man, a big-time knockout. My kid's nigging on my leg, and I'm looking over, and then as soon as I look back, I look, and then I hear it as I look. Like, damn it. Like, what do you want? And then boom. So I kind of miss it, but I did see the replays of it, of course, on live replays as I was watching the fight live. So I did get to see it in a replay, but it sucks when you miss it. Like, it's that moment, and you're like, son of a bitch, I just missed that, and it pisses you off a little bit. But, it's our kids. That's what they're going to do, man. When you got kids, you're definitely never going to get 100% free time on, not being interrupted at all. But anyways, man, I want to also talk about the undercard fights on there because I always like to give young fighters shout-outs. Tiger Johnson, give him a shout-out. Looked really good this weekend. Want to give the British kid McCormack a shout-out. He's trained by Ben Davison, who I really like as a trainer, and he looked really, really good this weekend, man. I want to give him my top shout-out for young guys. He reminded me a lot of Lomachenko. His movement, his pivots, his footwork, and everything like that. Really fast. Man, I want to say, don't quote me, that he's a lightweight or welterweight, one of the two. Anyways, he's really good. I like what I saw from him. And then, of course, we had our young guy out of Cleveland, Abdullah Mason. And despite what you guys saw this weekend, where Top Rank decided that they were going to take their top talent right now. I don't want to say their top talent because the Johnson brothers are pretty good also. But Abdullah Mason, who I'm really impressed with how he fights, Top Rank has this thing where they baby these guys, man. And they've got a stable of these cab drivers. Literally cab drivers. Guys that shouldn't be in the ring. Against guys like Abdullah Mason, because it does nothing for a young guy like that. He doesn't learn anything from that fight. He learns nothing. There's nothing to go look back on. I think a fighter should learn in every single fight they have and improve. Find out what your flaws are and improve on that. Find out what your strengths are and improve on that. When you put them against competition, like you did this weekend with Abdullah Mason, and you put him on the co-main event of all places, he's on the co-main event, and you guys literally put him up against a cab driver. Top Rank, come on, man, you got to do better. I don't know who your matchmaker is. I'm watching you do the same thing with the Ali Wash kid, who I haven't really seen improve because you don't put him up against talent that he can improve against. And Abdullah Mason shouldn't be handicapped with fights like this in his career. It's a waste of time. He learns nothing from this. He doesn't get better from it. He doesn't grow from it. And it's just something that Top Rank's got to do better with, especially being a co-main event. You know you had to have some kind of talent that you could have put him in there with that was way better than this guy. I can't even remember the guy's name. I won't even call him a kid. He was a grown man. He literally looked like somebody's dad. And you could tell from the jump that he wasn't on that level to be in there with an Abdullah Mason. So shame on you, Top Rank. I wanted to make Abdullah Mason my shout-out for Young Fighters of the Week. And I'm still giving him a shout-out because, trust me, watch this kid. He is really, really good. You just got to watch him. And Top Rank's got to put him against better talent. Shame on you guys for not putting him against better talent, man. Like I said, this weekend, man, I wanted to talk about some of the fights coming up this weekend. Also, I had my whole show based off the fact that we had the four top 10 welterweights fighting this weekend, and now we're not going to get to see that. Now we're not going to see those four guys fight with Virgil Ortiz falling out. We heard on Wednesday with his situation. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure. It just sucks that guy's going to pretty much, it sucks. Hopefully, you want his health more than anything. He's got to be healthy. So let's make sure he comes back healthy, and let's hope for the best of that. But let's talk about the fights this week, where you got Jerome Ennis, Boots, as they call him, Jerome Boots Ennis, and he's going to be fighting Romain Villa. That's going to be, these two are top 10. in the welterweight. I want to say Villa is around the 7th spot, and of course Boots is up on the top there. What is his ranking? He's rated number 4 by the TBRB and number 3 by Ring Magazine. And then, of course, you got Villa. He is rated 7th and 10th in both TBRB and the Ring Magazine rankings. So these two can eliminate one of the top guys in that welterweight, which seems to be pretty stacked. Sucks for Stan Onis not to get that opportunity to put himself in that list. I think he's not out of the list because he's an amazing fighter. He's just not getting an opportunity. He keeps banking on this Virgil Ortiz fight, and it just keeps falling through. Third time that fight has fallen through. And, man, that sucks because it robs us of a really good fight weekend. And, man, it makes you sad. I mean, man, like I said, it just robs us. Who's going to fill in for that is going to be it's going to be a lightweight competition. Floyd Sheffield versus Haskell Rhodes. That's going to be on the Zone. Those two guys, that was the co-main event. They're going to move those up. Sheffield is a really good fighter. I like him a lot. Man, if you would have had Virgil Ortiz versus Stan Onis on your main event, and your co-main event would have been Floyd Sheffield versus Rhodes, and then the fight before that co-main event would have been, of course, the women's bout with Marlene Esperanza fighting, and that would have been a really good card overall with the main event, co-main event, and then the women's event. Would have been a really exciting night. The Zone would have had a great show put on. I'm pretty sure they're disappointed that it all started out like that, to where now they have to now they have to start figuring out that co-main event, which they already did, but it kind of takes away from the night for them, and that sucks. But like I said, we also have the Daron Ennis fight versus Romain Villa. That's going to be on Showtime around 9:30 p.m. You're going to get the Floyd Sheffield fight. That's going to be on the Zone. Don't know the start time for that. It's going to be out in Texas. So I'm assuming around maybe the same time as the Showtime fight, maybe a little bit earlier. Which is that going to be on? But I know there's a fight that's going to be on ESPN. It's down in Mexico. It's a super bannerweight fight with Luis Nari versus, what is that name? Frolain Salander. I'll butcher the shit out of these names. Don't hold me to it. Look it up for yourself. You'll see who they are. That one is going to be on ESPN, and it's down there. It doesn't have a time on it. Oh, actually it does. Starting at 9 p.m. Eastern, U.S. in the U.S. on ESPN Plus. That will be another late start time. I don't think I'm going to make that one. I'm going to be more interested in watching the Floyd Sheffield versus Rhodes matchup, and then the Boots versus Villa matchup, which is going to be some really good matchups there. Not a lot of big news in boxing. We do know that Ryan Garcia is now down in Texas, and Derek James and him are now getting ready to train, do their thing, and get him on the road to see what he can do. I watched a little interview with Frank Martin earlier, and he said, they've done a little bit of sparring and things like that, and he wanted to make a fight against Ryan a while ago, he said, but it never did happen. I don't think Ryan wants that. But, it'd be interesting to see who Garcia will fight next. Who's next on his list, I would have to say maybe Prograis. You can make that matchup pretty easy. They're both with DAZN, same network as far as that. One's with Golden Boy, one's with Matchroom, but they both perform on the same platform with DAZN. Other than that, I can't really think of any other big news this week. Man, The big disappointment was Virgil Ortiz backing out of that fight, and I won't really say backed out, some health issues. So like we said, we just wish him some good luck, man, and getting his health back up. Wanted to get this episode in. It is Saturday instead of Friday, man. I do work 2 jobs, so sometimes I'm not always going to be in the mood to do the show on Friday, but man, I promise you guys I'll always get the show in, no matter what. And no matter what time it takes me. This show wasn't a big show, so I knew I can go ahead and get it in. It would have been a big show had the 4 welterweights had that fight going on tonight. I really thought that would have been, a good story about how those 4 guys, 2 of them can be eliminated and 2 can move forward and possibly be the matchup against Spence or Crawford in the welterweight division. I wanted to call it Who's Next. As far as who's next in that welterweight. I think Spence eventually has to move up. He has trouble making weight at 147, so it's more of who would Crawford fight at 147 and would he move up instead of fighting down and continuing to fight at the welterweight. I think he fits well in the welterweight, and I don't see. I think Jerome Boots would be a good matchup. Stanonis would be a good matchup. So, like I said, sucks that we didn't get those fights this week, and we won't have any answers on that part. We know 2 guys will. 2 of the top 10 will fight. So 1 will be eliminated tonight while 1 moves forward. And outside of that, man, I don't have a lot of more boxing news right now that we could talk about. But we know we got some banger fights coming up this weekend and some banger fights going on next weekend, and it's just going to get better from there when you get the Inouye versus Fulton fight, which is going to weirdly be on a Tuesday. That's going to be awesome. So not this week coming up, not after this weekend, but after the weekend after that, you're going to have boxing on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So we're going to get almost a whole week of boxing. That's going to be pretty exciting to watch that. So it's going to be pretty interesting on that part of it. But like I said, man, thanks for joining me tonight. I'll be drinking on a little bit of Howler Head. It's not bad stuff. Give it a try. Guaranteed not to contain ape shit, which I would say that's a good thing. It doesn't taste like ape shit. It tastes pretty good. Pretty smooth going down. So thank you guys for joining me on my second episode of Bourbon and Boxing. I guess we'll call this We'll Never Know. Episode 2. Thank you guys for joining, man.
This is my country, my damn country. Give me my country, you can keep the rest. This is my country, my damn country. And it don't mean a thing if it don't pass the test. If you ain't never cheated or been cheated on, then take off your boots, you rhinestone fraud. Well, give me cheating, drinking, and outlaw songs. Hard time, foolish pride, done me wrong. Flirting with the devil, getting right with the man. 8-man paint songs, one-night stands. You can keep your picket fence fantasies and put a cork in your high school memories. This is my country, my damn country. Give me my country, you can keep the rest. This is my country, my damn country. And it don't mean a thing if it don't pass the test. If you ain't never spent a single night in jail, then get another job and I'll see you in hell. I'm drawn like a moth through the neon lights. I need a bucket of beer and someone to fight. Don't call yourself country if your music is shitty, or this Carolina boy will take you down to Fifth City. You know who you are.